Welcome everyone to the Courageously Authentic Leadership Summit. I'm so glad to have you all back here and just really excited to introduce you to Ron Hendrix. Ron was actually born an entrepreneur, like popped out and went, I'm an entrepreneur. From his earliest memory, he's been fascinated with and inspired by the idea of both owning his own business and coaching others to do the same. And over the past 40 years, Ron's achieved great success in both the restaurant and the insurance industry. So he brings a lot of experience from two different industries. And as a franchise development expert for PepsiCo, he was directly involved in the successful opening of over 100 restaurants. So he kind of knows what he's talking about. In his current role as a district manager with Farmers Insurance, Ron has helped over 200 individuals achieve the dream of business ownership. Now, Ron and I know each other because we were part of David Bear's facilitator program, and it's about transformational mindset. And I got to see Ron's passion firsthand. And when passion meets planning, the results are incredibly powerful, and Ron is incredibly powerful, and I'm excited to bring him to you all today. Through a combination of proven systems and positive mindset, Ron's coaching clients have experienced tremendous entrepreneurial success. And I know that he's going to share some things with you today that will rock your world. So Ron, let's start off with courageously authentic leadership, as we have with each of them, because that's a big thing for you. What does that mean for you to be a courageously authentic leader?
Yeah, well, thanks, Gina, and thanks for having me. It's been a great journey since we met, and the transformation, as you talked about from the mindset standpoint, has to play the major factor in being that type of leader. Something that I always knew that I was a positive person and didn't really know how I bounced back and really didn't know the inner workings of how all that happened. And then when we went through the program together, it became super clear that, a powerful mindset is where all great things happen. And the more that I am able and having that type of leadership style has helped people to make all these breakthroughs to understand why they do what they do, right? And it's super simple. We make it complicated, but it's super simple. We're really in two states. We're either in a primal or, a powerful state. And when I started to look at from that perspective, I was able to communicate that a lot easier. So I think someone who was able to communicate that and then constantly try to pull somebody into that powerful state and go through the things that are necessary to do that helps them be courageously authentic. And they have vision. I think any leader has to have vision. And I don't, that's maybe a cliche for some people. When I say vision, on my wall to my left right now, they've hung there for, I don't know, 20 something years, maybe longer. Walt Disney hangs there. So talk about vision, right? Seeing things while others may not see it yet is a leader who stands out to be so different, and then can help pull their teams and any of those folks that are working with them hang Abraham Lincoln, and obviously perseverance. You can't see it, but perseverance is a huge piece of that, because leaders have to continue on. When others fall by the wayside, we'll jump back on the wagon. And then Vince Lombardi, it kind of caps it off with that winning spirit to at least achieve to be number one and make sacrifices as a leader that others don't necessarily either feel safe or maybe they are not willing to invest to that level. But as leaders, to anyone that we work with, we need to have some of those components, if not all of those components. And when we do, amazing things happen.
Yeah. Now, when you talked about primal versus powerful, like that's something we went into pretty deeply together when we were going through the transformational mindset. What does that look like for you? Like when you're working with someone and you notice they're in a primal state, what does that look like? And then when you're trying to get them to a powerful state, what does that look like for them?
Yeah, so the first thing we do is I talk in my team. I have a team of people that I employ to work with multiple folks. And we immediately try to lay the groundwork that there's two states of being. There's either powerful or there's primal. And what that means is really simply, as you know, powerful is where all great things can and do happen. And primal is where absolutely nothing good that can ever be proven by me or probably anybody else, but nothing good happens there, right? It's where, decay of the body, the mind, the soul, everything happens. There's nothing good there. Powerful is when people are enlightened and they're lifted up and they're more content and peaceful. So when we're involved in any type of conversation, business or otherwise, because this obviously bleeds over to our ordinary lives, and we're in one of those two states. And that for me was a huge breakthrough moment, because I thought we could be in both. We could go back. Really, you're not. You just want to get out of one and into the other. So we try to determine limiting beliefs that a person might have when they're in a business and or personal situation. But we'll talk about business. And when they're questioning themselves, when the negative energy that's out there is saying, I cannot, to push that away and go, okay, over here, that I cannot does not live in the world of powerful. All right, doesn't even understand what that means. And so it rules out all the things that would pull you back to those that maybe don't want you to move forward, or maybe they're just fearful, or maybe they're uneducated about the way forward. And that's probably a big piece of why you're doing what you're doing with this. This conference is to help people understand there's not only hope, there's a beacon of light shining, just asking for you to grab a hold of it. And so when we communicate that to people in business or life in general, people will say, well, that's different. And it's like, well, yeah. And that's what we're trying to get across is, and so they're uncomfortable, as you know, and we all get there, not as much now for me as I did. And the transformation when somebody breaks through, and some of them on the, very early on, and some take multiple times to meet with, but that's a little bit of what that looks like when they get down into what I call the ditch, and they roll around in the mud and they can't get out. And it's super amazing to watch somebody come out of that ditch and come clean mentally and be able to move forward. And I, again, another tribute to being that type of a leader. Leaders want all to rise, not some to rise. And while we cannot directly, we indirectly do impact everybody, and most will rise, most will step up. All people are good. That's a principle I live by. Some people read by, well, there's bad people. No, there's not. There's behavior that's been altered by negative energy. That's a personal belief. So all people are good. Show them the way, and then the metaphorically speaking, show them the light, and the light is just the powerful mindset, and it has all the positive benefits of it.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. All people are good, because when we come at a situation with that energy, it creates the opportunity for everyone to rise to their greatest level. And I think for me, that's where courageously authentic leadership comes from, is having the courage to hold space for people, being authentically you, and creating a space where others can be authentically themselves and step into that leadership. And so when you talk about the primal versus the powerful, I think a lot of people don't recognize what primal looks like. So they're like, no, I'm really trying. And that
Right.
whole, well, try harder, like that's not helpful, because they are trying. So what advice would you give, or what advice do you give to folks when you see that they're struggling with moving ahead and elevating themselves to that courageous authenticity?
Yeah, it's such a great point. And the short answer is find someone who's in the light. Find someone who's living the life that you want to live. Find someone who is helping you just because they want people to rise up, and they want all to be better and more content, calm, peaceful, and so forth. Find someone who's like that, because being completely candid, for so many years, I was so caught up in proverbial rat race, right? And I was on the little hamster wheel, and it's like, yeah, I'm doing good, and I'm getting all this wonderful stuff. And I'm not downplaying that at all. But the challenge was at this part of my life, which is, you know, much deeper than most. Some people may be super young. I hope you are. And find somebody who wants to, that will work with you to share this information. But the key word there, and one of the key words you used, and I love this terminology that we learned, was create space. So when I tell people now in my world in business ownership, which, you know, business is war by any other manual, right? So when you say to somebody, create space, it's an odd feeling at first, but that is so impactful, because you mean you as a human want to give me a piece of your life for a certain period of time that's about you and I. And it's like, how simple is this, but how ridiculously powerful is that?
Yeah.
No distractions, no phones, no this, no that. And so, you know, find someone who is willing to work with you. If it's business, then great. If it's not, find somebody who aligns with what it is you're looking for, and align with them. And you'll be amazed, as I know we were during the journey that we had together. And it was just so, it was super uplifting. I mean, people from all over the world, I get so caught up in my day-to-day task, which, you know, some of the reveals that I've talked to you about just recently, you don't realize that that hamster wheel kind of captures you, right? And then when you open yourself up to people that are from all different countries, all different walks of life, no way were they the assertive, hard-charging person that I was at one time. And I'm going to put myself in that arena. And it was the most amazing thing I ever did, probably. But I mean, it was super impactful. So the answer to your question is, don't do the same thing tomorrow. Do something different, and open yourself up to at least have a conversation with somebody else, and give them space. Because for me, you know, we're not talking about all my accomplishments and, you know, a lot of great stuff. I've been blessed with so much. At the same time, that was scary to me, that very recently, it was only a year and a half ago, that was super scary to me to put myself out there, right? Because business is war, and your world may be too, if somebody's listening. But open it up, and you'll be amazed if you put it out to the universe, what the universe will provide for you. It's 100% true. It got scary for me, and Tina knows this, because we were in a position where things, I would say, okay, I'm going to do this. And like, it doesn't always happen like you drive to the restaurant and it comes to in 30 seconds. But it was happening like that. And it kind of scared me a little bit. It was like, whoa, wait a minute. But why should I be putting parameters on what I can put out there that was, you know, ethically, morally right? And it was returned to me. And it's like, how, you know, I was kind of dumbfounded, right? So just let somebody in and create, that is willing to create that space, would be my best advice.
Yeah, I love that you bring up the transformation, your journey through when we were together in the transformational mindset, because we had a small team. You and I ended up, and I know the universe does not create accidents. Everything is the way it is to be. And you and I ended up in the small team together. And would you just shared a little bit, but I'd love for you to share, what was it about that team dynamic that allowed you to open up in a way that you had been guarded before?
Yeah, absolutely. So no judgment. So in the world of business, you know, the dog eat dog war, whatever, I mean, whatever cliche, but it's real. That you want to think about, the first thing that you're not thinking of is, hey, how about I become a little vulnerable and open space and see what happens, right? So we get in this, as you know, we got in this group, most of which I had zero in common with. And there were actually at the end, much more similar in real life, meaning who we are behind this facade, maybe sometimes. And what I did, there was no judgment. I live in a world that if I do supernatural crazy business things, I've got a target on my back, and I needed someone to align with that. And I had instant trust with all of you. And that just doesn't, I mean, that there's no money you can put on that kind of connection in the leadership field, and everything that was going on in that group. And everyone had everyone else's best interest at heart. It was for me, it was so foreign to me, so unique. And because I'm on top of the hill as a leader most of the time, and you have all this stuff that we do, and there's not a lot of people that I can hang with and just kind of be who I am. And so I being able to trust and be able to let your guard down and have real conversations, learn from all of you, and share information without that judgment was I'm one that's never speechless, and it left me speechless. It was the most amazing journey. It was worth more money than I could ever pay. So
yeah, and none of us knew each other before we started.
Never
That
knew
was
any-
the crazy thing. We just had to trust in the process that we were here for a reason, and let's move out together.
Yep.
And it was great. What shifted in your life after that, or through that experience and after that experience?
Yeah. So, wow. So a lot, right? So in short, so relationship wise, I've been married for 40, I think she says 40, I say 49, but anyway, about 40 years. No, it's coming up on 42. And so I actually became I worked it a lot, and it helped me to be more patient with, and on me, not in the relationship with her. So I made modifications to me personally that I know that are beneficial to my family, but mainly my wife, because my kids are out of the house. And then, so we shift that into business. And so people were seeing a foreign human being, like, who's the alien that just popped into the show? Because he's speaking of language of things we haven't necessarily heard recently. And yet I was watching, as I shared this information with my team, I watched multiple people go through, it saved their careers, their words, not mine. And what I mean by that is we talked about that space that, and it took maybe a couple, 3 visits to do that. And as we talked about, and I led them through and asked them questions about the things that, we talked about, and we went through the journey. I mean, they looked at things so differently, and the limiting beliefs were vaporizing. They realized it was the opposite, and on and on and on. So, and that rolled into, well, going to a conference with a bunch of really great people that are super assertive. And I was one of the speakers on another subject. And I asked for the opportunity to use part of it as mindset coaching, because mindset coaching is everything. It changes everything. It touches everything. And so I weamed it in there, and I can see I had about 50 in the audience at that time. And then I had about 150 to 200 in the general session. And to watch the faces of, so it was impactful to a lot of people's lives that I opened up and say, hey, listen, if you want to converse, or, you want to get on a call and talk through some of this information, I'll be happy to share it with you to help you, because I know it has changed and helped change me, and I'm working at it every day. And so what it did is it continued to snowball, which is a super satisfying feeling, because if you go back to who I was 40 plus years ago, that's what I cared about, right? And I always have, but it gets caught up and we came back to a point where, hey, can we minimize stress? Can we get you more at peace? Can we make clear decisions? Can we just look at facts, not emotion? Can we, all those types of things? So mean, that's the tip of the iceberg, and that's the fast forward version. But it was immediately impactful, and it was really me that changed in most cases, sharing how that happened, and then people trusted that more, and they started to use some of the methodology, if you will, and it has benefited them as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. The amount of impact that you can have just by sharing that and shifting their idea of what it means to show up as a leader and be successful and contribute, right? It's not always about checking the box, making the money, getting the client. It's broader and it's bigger than that. And for you, so you've been through this transition and this adjustment, right? For someone who's sitting there going, yeah, I'm pretty successful. I got the white picket fence, the title, the bank account, all the good stuff, and I'm still feeling like there's something missing. What was it for you that you kind of recognized, this is not the path I want to be on? What are those tangible things that popped up for you that someone else could go, yeah, that's happening for me?
Yeah, I think it's more the, the stress part of it, right? The lack of peace and being, not wanting to be self-serving, but I've worked really hard and spent a lot of money, done a lot to get, and I've been blessed along the way. At that point, though, like you said, there's something missing. It's I've always been the pay it forward guy, but now I'm paying it forward in a sense that it's teaching them to fish. And so as they can control and be in control of their own lives and be in charge of their own lives, two separate things. And that has been game changing for me. That's been very fulfilling during a time that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that are going bump in the night and aren't the way they were a couple of years ago, and all the kind of stuff that goes on, which happens in some form or fashion everywhere. This has helped to be kind of a super clarity in getting clarity of what the real issue is with any particular person, including myself. What is the real issue? What is the real issue I'm dealing with, so that I can take that and then try to deal with that and make the adjustments, which are not difficult. It's work, it's mental, but that has been super impactful by helping people be able to get the clarity of what the real challenge or what the real problem is. When I've done that, speaking for myself, it has helped me to, it's changed my lifestyle. I've involved myself in a lot more recreational type of stuff. I've always been present for my family, but not I could always been better. And this has allowed me to be less intense about what's going to happen next. So it's reduced worry, stress. There are peaceful moments. There's more clarity of the vision that I have more from a personal standpoint now than there was for business. I always had super clear vision of where I wanted to go, but the journey was much rougher than it needed to be. And that's what I hope we can, and I know that we'll get across to people, is there's another way. It's very, I don't want to call it simplistic, but it is.
Once you understand it and once you see it,
Yeah.
you're like, how did I not see that? It is so simple.
I don't know how many times I said that in our group that you and I were in, but you kind of want to do the, V8 moment, if anybody's old enough to know that, where you smack yourself in the head. But you're going, how did I not know that? Well, I'll tell you how you didn't know it, because there's so much negative energy around you that if you're not a beacon of powerful mindset and you don't put off that, then people are being consumed by it. And so it will help to push that barrier of negative energy or a primal state of mind back off of them, because they're going to look at things from a standpoint, and I looked at things from a standpoint of being more powerful. And how do I deal with that? How do I react to that? What does this look like? And there's just a step to take. And there's always primal things that come creeping, and how fast we get the primal out of the way is really the primary teaching that my team, and mainly myself with my entire team, we talk about. There's not going to be a time where you can keep that primal part completely away, especially in business. If you're dealing, it doesn't matter whether it's real life, but business, you're paid to solve problems. It's how you solve and receive all that. I don't receive all that negative energy. I now more or less deflect, which sounds very generic, but it's deeper, as you know, and so it takes a little bit more time. But that was one of the bigger things. I don't let it be a direct hit. I found a way to utilize things that I had and people that I had to help them, but also not take on all the stuff that seemed to be just burying me. I mean,
Yes.
just consuming me. And it's not healthy. It's not mentally healthy. And it's just no way that a person should have to live their life when this type of methodology is out there.
Right. And a lot of that negative energy we're generating ourselves because we're fighting against who we really are and what we really want. And we look outside of ourselves instead of looking within to go, like you even mentioned with your relationship. You're the one that shifted your mindset, your feeling, your beliefs, the way you showed up, and you noticed an energetic shift around you. You created that. And everyone can. We just have to be open to it. And some folks, they recognize that there's something not right and they want to take a step. And some folks are just not there, and that's okay. For those that are there, there's a way, right? And I think that's wonderful. And I think one of the things that came up for us that I found pretty profound when we were going through this, the whole process, was how so many people don't take a step in the direction they want to go because they don't know the how of the whole thing. Right. And it's like, well, I want this, but there's no freaking way that's going to happen. I don't even know how to do that.
Right.
So you don't do anything.
Right.
Right. And so for you, how has that shown up for you? How has that been an obstacle that you've overcome?
Yes. So so when you're talking, I'm remembering a certain person in the group, and we talked about the lily pads, and for her, the lily pad thing kind of really was an aha moment, right? So the theory is you step on a lily pad, all of a sudden you take the next step and the view changes just a bit. And then you take the next step and the view changes just a bit. And before you know it, you've taken multiple steps and you don't even really remember what that looked like. And so if anybody gets anything out of this, I hope that they realize that leaders are good about baby stepping people and helping them to take little controlled steps and then reevaluate. And it doesn't have to be this major leap, but movement is necessary to see something different than what we see today. And when other people see us making movement in ourselves, and this was a big reveal for me, I saw them, I saw their faces, their energy, their involvement, the teams I work with and the people I work with. I could see that, and I could see the intrigue as they read and watched what I was doing, because I'm not, I mean, these are pretty radical things for me, for my, I mean, I was not as open and everything to making changes. It wasn't that I did, I just didn't know how. But even the terminology and things like that were super outside my comfort zone. But it was, once I got there, the view changed to a point where it's like, look what I've been missing my whole life. I mean, really. I mean, it was like walking behind a screen eventually and seeing, an amazing panoramic view of the most magnificent view you could see. And so you felt, experienced, and all of those things. So that's a little bit of an analogy of what my journey has been like. And one of the things I use every day with everybody is, people come to me and they say, one of my favorite things that I use every single day, multiple times a day, is, why did that happen? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. And here's the cool thing. It was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And while you don't know, and this happened to me while I was in the group with you, I didn't know why things were happening, but later on, so because I was struggling with some of the transformation, and then how is this going to show up? How is it going to work out? I got to see the end. I got to know how this picture ends before I watch it. And then I started the lily pad by just stepping on another proverbial lily pad and just going to another position. And it started to open the forest up, if you will. And it's like, well okay.
Here we are.
Well, there you go. And that was so crazy cool. It was like, you don't need to know what the end of the movie is before you get into the movie. So when I would get in there, what I'm referring to for people that might not know is when I was going, how am I going to get out and help more people? Right. I mean, I love what I do, but I want to help more people. And so I end up in front of 150 people, which multiple people reached out to me on the spot, were texting me from the stage to say, listen, I would love to get, help and talk about this and, get involved in work, hear more about it, whatever the case may be. And all of that showed up from just trusting and taking a step, looking around. It's okay. There's no animals there. You take another step.
Yeah, I'm not going to get eaten by the tiger. It's okay to take the step.
Now there were no tigers involved in the filming of this program. So it was awesome.
Right.
Just keep moving, right? Just keep moving. And the cool thing is when you're doing it with other people, and the second thing, going back to a question earlier, is get a small group of people to take the journey with you, because it's so much more fulfilling that when you have other people sharing the same common desires to better themselves, help other people be more at peace, remove stress, whatever is going on in their lives that they want to rid themselves of or what they want to achieve, it's something that we all need. And I will be totally honest and tell you that without the group that we had, I don't know that I would have made the impact that I did. I reached out to somebody I didn't know, and I took that step, and then I took more what I will call baby steps. And then you guys showed up in my life, and I'm going, well, this is really crazy cool. And all these cool people I've never known before. And so, all to say, it's worth just taking a step. There's no risk.
Absolutely. The risk is in your mind, right? You make it up, and you make up the fear around that. And once you take that step, you realize there's so much goodness out here that's available to me and that I can share back. And it's great. And you don't have to be afraid of it. And I'm with you. I know for a fact, I would not have made the transformation that I did had we not been in that group. Because one-on-one is great, right? You can go deeper into one-on-one, but it's the sharing of the information. It's the recognizing I'm not alone in my thought process or my experience, that everyone is there. That just is really, really powerful. So I'm with you 100% on that. And Ron, as we wrap this up, this has been amazing. We could just talk for hours, but I do want to make sure that folks know that you are offering up an opportunity to have a discovery call, a complimentary discovery call with you, if they're considering becoming a business owner, or maybe it's a business owner listening now that's thinking, maybe I want to transition to something new, a new opportunity. So I'm going to make sure that when the email goes out with this recording, they've got your email that they can reach out directly to you. Anyone who's interested in that complimentary discovery call, Ron, if you want to share a little bit about that with them, please feel free.
Yeah, so please do. If nothing else, it's just a conversation. There's no expense involved. When you have 42 years of success and been blessed, I believe that I'll speak for myself, that I want to pay it forward. And I want other people to be able to enjoy what I've been able to enjoy and control their own lives. So if anybody even thinks that they ever wanted to open a business, I'm super transparent. I will tell the factual data. And many people don't know for sure, is it a business or is it a hobby? So that's one thing that I'll try to cover, because hobbies are really super fun and cost a lot of money, but they're not necessarily businesses. And some people that maybe are just have sent out 100 million resumes and they feel like I go to the next job and then the next job and the next job. I've seen that movie early in my life with PepsiCo. I worked in the restaurant division and made a lot of money and myself. But more importantly, I never felt in control of my own life. But if that's your journey, it's okay. And it's great because we need people to run companies and do great things for great company. But if you feel like you're just on a treadmill or you're on that proverbial hamster wheel, let's have a conversation. That's all. And
Yeah.
let's visit for a little bit. I'll share some of my background, ask a few questions, and I guarantee that we'll shed some light for you to at least give some thought. I've told people, many people, I've saved people hundreds of millions of dollars. They say, well, how did you do that, Ron? I said, because I talked them out of the business they were thinking about starting because it wasn't really a business. So I've seen, and this is a true story. I mean, I've seen so much I've been blessed in my lifetime. Not all that was the prettiest road, by the way. It wasn't all sugar plums and rainbows. So I'll share those stories with you. And many times I think people, they all benefit from this. They don't love, some people go, well, that burst my dream. Not at all. It just maybe the journey, that meeting was part of the journey to get you to the next lily pad. So
Yeah. And one of the greatest takeaways that I've learned in these last few years is you don't do this alone.
No.
Right. No matter what this is, you're trying something new, you want to get better, you want to build a business, you want to build a nonprofit, like whatever it is that you want to do, don't ever do it alone. Because there are people out there who want to help move you forward and save you, quite frankly, from some of the experiences that they've had themselves.
Absolutely. Some of my best friends and have come through, and the people I've leaned on that have been, have done exactly that for me. So I can never pay back everything that I've been given in my lifetime, and amazing advice from people who have helped me get where I'm at. And if that's all it is, and that's what that journey is for, if the conversation, then outstanding. At least, it's one more positive thing out to the universe. So
definitely. Thank you, Ron, so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was a blast.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you later.